Welcome to the last lesson, lesson 8-9, volumes of cylinders in prisms. Today we're going to learn how to find the volume of a cylinder and the volume of a prism. All right, so the first thing we need to do is we need to know what we fill shapes with. All the shapes that we use are called cubic units. Inside of each three-dimensional figure, we figure out how many cubic units we can fit. A cubic unit is a cube with edges 1 centimeter long, 1 centimeter high, and 1 centimeter wide. So it's 1 by 1 by 1. So like these little units down here are 1 by 1 by 1. The volume of a figure is the number of cubic units needed to fill the space inside of a figure. So the way I kind of look at it is if you have this cylinder, you're figuring out if I take the base, how many of these bases can I fit from top to bottom? So the first thing we have to remember is that the actual volume formula is not always length times width times height. We have to remember that it's actually area times height, because you're taking the area of your base, and again, you're figuring out how many of these you can fit into this cylinder. So imagine you're taking this as a disc and copying it a lot of times and figuring out how many of those discs that you can fit into this case. All right, so what is the shape of the base of a cylinder? We know that this is a circle. So now we have to remember what's the area formula for a circle. In this case, it's area equals pi r squared. So the volume formula for this would be volume equals pi r squared times h. This is why we say that the volume is area times height, because otherwise you'd be memorizing a lot of different formulas. So in this case, we're going to replace area with pi r squared. All right, so let's try this. The first thing that you want to do is you want to find the volume. So to find the volume, you have to find the area. The area of a circle, we said, is pi r squared. So we are going to take pi and turn it into 3 14/14, and we multiply that by our radius, which is 4, squared. Okay, and then we're going to multiply this by our height, so how tall this cylinder stands, which is 15 inches. Again, you have to remember your order of operations, and we have to do our exponents first. So we have 3 14/14 times 16 times 15. Okay, so we can take our calculators and we can do 3 14/14 times 16, which is going to give us 50 24/100. And we still have to multiply that by 15. So we're figuring out how many discs that have an area of 50 24/100 we can fit into this 15-inch case. So we'll take this, multiply by 15, and we get 753 6/10 inches cubed. Now the reason it's cubed is because you have to remember, you're taking inches times inches here, so you're taking 4 inches times 4 inches, so here you have inches squared, and then now you're taking that times another 15 inches. So you have 1, 2, 3 inches, so you have inches cubed. Right, so we're going to practice another one together. In your notes, you'll notice that you do not have this problem, but you do have these 4 problems. I know it's a lot of practice with cylinders, but they're the most difficult to remember because of the area formula, and I want you to make sure you get as much practice as you can. Okay, so in this case, we have the radius is equal to the height divided by 6 plus 1. So we have to do a little bit of extra work here. So our formula is still volume equals radius squared times height. And we have 3 14/100 times. Now in this case, this has to go into parentheses because to find the radius, we have to do 24 divided by 6 plus 1. We have to do this first before we can square it and before we can multiply it by the height. So first we have to find this radius in order to fulfill the rest of the formula. Okay, so we have 3 14/100 times 24 divided by 6 gives us 4 plus 1. Okay, we just keep bringing down the pieces that we haven't used. So now we have 3 14/100 times 5 squared times 24. So now we're back to our normal pieces here. You have 3 14/100 times 25 times 24. 3 14/100 times 25. Now the nice thing here, to check and make sure your answers are around the correct number, you can estimate. You know that 25 times 3 is 75, so your answer should be 75 or higher. In this case, it's 78 and 5/10 times 24 gives you 1,884 centimeters cubed. Right, so this starts your notes here. So like I said, we'll do a couple together. So we're going to do this one, and then you will be responsible for number 1, number 2, and number 3. And you don't need to tell me what the area is. You can just tell me the answer to the volume. Right? But it sometimes is easier, and I'm going to show you on this one, to break it down piece by piece. So first to find the area. The area, again, is pi times r squared. But remember, here they give us the diameter. So in order to do this, we have to take the diameter and divide it by 2, which gives us 3. So we have 3 14/100 times 3 squared, 3 14/100 times 9. We can go to the side, 3 14/100 times 9. Our area is 28 26/100 feet squared. So this might give you a better idea as to why it is cubic units, because now we have to take the area that we found, the 28 26/100, and multiply it by the height, which is 18. Here we have feet squared, and here we have feet. So again, you have feet squared, so feet times another feet. So you have feet times feet times feet, which is a repeated multiplying of feet 3 times. So in this case, you're going to take your 28 26/100, multiply it by 18, and you get 508 68/100 feet cubed. So in your notes, you can put that your area, you can show all the work here, and then your answer was 28 26/100 feet squared, and then you can show all of your work and show down here that your answer was 508 68/100 feet cubed. Or what you can do is you can keep reminding yourself what the area formula is for practice. My main concern is that you can find the volume. So you need to try numbers 1, 2, and 3 on your own. and post your answers to Edmodo. However, we're not finished. We just talked about cylinders. So now we are going to move on to prisms. And first we're going to talk about rectangular prisms. We're only going to do rectangular prisms and triangular prisms for this unit. All right, so again, we remember that volume equals area times height. So the first thing we have to think of is, what's the base of the rectangular prism? It is a rectangle. The area formula for that base is base times height. So this is where your base times height or length times width times height formula comes into play for volume. So the volume of the rectangular prism is volume equals base times height times the height of your three-dimensional figure. Now this is where things get a little bit confusing because how do you have two heights? That's why things were changed to length times width. So you have the length of your rectangle times the width of your rectangle times the height of your three-dimensional figure. But because we're working with multiplication, in this case, it doesn't matter what order we put the numbers in, but you still want to practice getting your dimensions in the right place. So for your notes, we'll be doing this problem together, and you will be responsible for problem number 4 on your own. All right, so in this case, the volume formula is volume equals length times width times height. The length of your rectangle is 10.5 inches times the width, which is 3 2/10 inches, times the height of your prism, which is 4 inches. Now, one of the reasons that we are also able to move these around is if you were to take this prism and stand it up, now all of a sudden this bottom rectangle is your base, these are your sides, so all your dimensions moved. Okay, so it doesn't quite matter where your pieces go, but you want to practice finding and working with the correct dimensions. Okay, and we are just going to go ahead and use a calculator here. So we have 10 5/10 times 3 2/10 times 4, which gives us 134 4/10. Again, because we're working with volume, it's units. In this case, those units are inches cubed. You can also think of it this way. There's 1, 2, 3 dimensions when we talk about formula for volume. That's why you have 3 as your exponent when we're talking about your units. 1 for each dimension. Again, this is the problem that you'll be doing on your own in your notes. This is number 4. And then the last prisms we're going to talk about are triangular prisms. In your notes, there was a typo. It says volume of rectangular prisms again. Please make sure to cross this out and put triangular prisms. Okay. It also has this listed here again for you as a reminder. So always make sure you go back and check that general reminder. All right, so the volume for a prism, again, is area times height. Okay. And triangular prisms have a base that is a triangle. The area formula for that base is half times the base times the height. So the volume formula for this triangular prism will be half times the base times the height times the height of the three-dimensional figure. Okay, and again, We have this problem that we'll do together, and then you are responsible for problem number 5, the very last problem, on your own. So you have 5 questions to answer tonight on Edmodo. Please make sure you do this only in one post. All right, so in this case, we have volume equals half times base times height times the height of the figure. And this is where we use capital H, so it reminds us to use the height of the prism and not the height of the base. So again, it's easier if we find the area first. So we do half times the base of the triangle is 8 inches times the height of the triangle, which is 6 inches. And we can take half of 8, which is 4. 4 times 6 gives us 24. So the area is 24 inches squared. And then to find the volume, we'll take that 24 inches squared and multiply it by the 5 inches tall that the three-dimensional figure is. When we do 24 divided by 5, we get 4 times 5, which is 20. Carry the 2. 2 times 5 is 10, plus 2 is 12. So the volume is 120 inches cubed. Right, so on your own, you are responsible for this second triangular prism. Don't forget to post your answers and number them 1 through 5. When you're giving me the labels, because you cannot write feet cubed on Edmodo, you can put cubic feet or cubic inches, so on and so forth. Again, if you have any questions, please post them to Edmodo or write them down for us to go over tomorrow in class.